Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. We are continuing our series on Shin Malphur and Dredgen Yor, but now more the after effects of Dredgen Yor, with the shadows of Yor cult that sprung up in his wake. Um, in our previous episode, we discussed, the rise of that cult, the Shadows of Yor, and their creations of, their findings of Yor's original writings and the Book of Unmaking, the seventh Book of Sorrow, um, and their creation of replicas of Thorn, and Shin essentially going to the Vanguard and presenting this as a problem that these people were running around in Crucible and whatnot. And the Vanguard was essentially saying, like, they have things that look like Thorn, but they're not Guardian killers like Thorn was. We have better things to worry about right now. And Shin promptly deciding, well, I guess it's in my hands then. Uh, and so that's where we were last episode. Coming into this episode, and this episode is going to focus on what Shin's plan is. And he actually ends up forming that plan with someone that you may not expect, and that being the Drifter.
Yeah. Sometimes darkness is the right way to go.
Well, we're gonna see some we're gonna see some of Shin's thoughts on that.
Yeah. I as much as I love the idea of like him seeing a problem and going, okay, well, I'll solve it since the governing body. Do you think of the Vanguard as a governing body?
Kinda. I mean,
Sort of.
yes and no. Yeah.
We'll say the higher ups then.
Yeah.
For Shin to come to them with this problem and go, hey, I think this might be an issue. We should solve it, or you should take note of it and maybe do something. And then go, nah, it's fine. Nobody's died. It's whatever. It's a bunch of copycats is all it is. And him going, all right, guess I got to go rogue and take care of this myself. I don't know, man. That train of thought is a dangerous train of thought. So
It
yeah,
is.
I'm scared. I'm scared for Shin. Like Shin is like, I don't know, like I know I feel like I know so little of him, even though we've talked about him a lot. Like the most I know about him is that he died. He died as a child, was rezzed, then his ghost promptly died, like within the year, within the month, possibly, and then had this other guardian come into town and kind of take him under his wing type thing. So I had like a third set of parents, and then eventually tracked down the guy who killed all of his family and his friends and his entire town and golden gunned him and was gifted a gun and a ghost. Like that's, to me, that's like the majority of what I know about Shin, and what I've learned through this. So yeah, I feel like I know very little about Shin Malphur the man and his kind of like motivations and stuff. So I feel like I hope this episode's gonna enlighten a lot of that.
I think will give us a little bit of that, and definitely as we move on with the series in general, we're going to get a little more of Shin's inner thoughts and inner conflicts and such. So before we get into the lore readings about Shin, I want to do a little aside about the Drifter. Uh, Most people may have heard this in the dialogue for the most recent season, where Drifter is referred to as Dredgen Hope. Um, and that should tell you that, yes, Drifter was at one point part of the Shadows of Yor cult.
See, if
Uh,
he was part of it, that can't be that bad.
well,
He seems like an okay guy from time to
sure,
time.
when it serves him.
Yeah.
Uh, But so to that effect, though, he left the cult, and Drifter tells us this from the Hidden Messages Honor Among Thieves quest line, which was when way back when Season of the Drifter, when you had to choose to either like side with the Vanguard or side with the Drifter. You learned a little bit about him. And one of his messages, he says that if you're going to hang with me, you need to know about the shadows of Yor. They follow the edicts of a very bad man named Dredgen Yor. And what are his shadows after? Everything the light can't provide. I thought they could help me find an answer to the battles of light versus light that raged during the Dark Age. But the longer I flew with them, the more I saw that they're as blind as all those who followed the traveler. Just one albatross for another. I was done with them. So the Drifter went to the shadows of Yor, looking to them for providing answers he was seeking about, like, you know, is the light good? Is the dark bad? Like, kind of more philosophical questions after seeing warlords use the light to destroy themselves and civilians.
Oh yeah, and he witnessed a lot of that stuff firsthand when he was under the name Tremaine. We
Yep.
covered that in our Drifter series. Like they literally destroyed towns and killed everyone.
So he's looking for answers, and he goes to, okay, these people that follow the light, like follow the traveler like it's some god. They clearly are out of their heads. I'm gonna see what these guys that have a different thought are like, and maybe they have answers for me. And he discovered the more he was with them that no, they've just traded one god for another. They're just as righteous and devout towards a different thing than another. They don't have actual answers for me. And so he left.
Tends to happen with cults style followings.
Well, yeah. I mean, hopefully people leave. Hopefully people recognize that that's, they're not actually getting any answers out of it, and they remove themselves from the situation. Um, but needless to say, so when he was with the Shadows of Yore, he was known as Dredgen Hope. And that time with the Shadows earned him the notice of one Shin Malphur. And him leaving also earned him notice with Shin Malphur. And so we get a lore book entitled A Drifter's Gambit, which dropped with Forsaken, that are it's kind of like journal entries from Shin about his observations and interactions with the Drifter, and eventually leading up to a plan between the two. So we are going to start off with the first chapter of that book. And that chapter is titled Uneasy Feeling. And it goes like this. I've followed him for a short while now, tracked his path since he turned up on mine. He's not like them, but not far off. Hard to trust, hard to know. He's seen more than most can imagine and done things most wouldn't dare. But he's always kept his distance, stayed far from the light. Why head cityside now? Why risk antagonizing those best equipped to cut his journey short? Can't quite say. I get the sense he's on the run, but from what? From who? There are shadows in his past. Do they linger? Do they hunt? Or is his desperation driven by other concerns? All I've seen, all I've uncovered of him, of his long, winding road, says he's made enemies at just about every turn. Over centuries, that list grew real long, and he's been comfortable on the dodge out beyond the reef, ever moving, ever exploring, never concerned with the dangers riding his wake. So again, why now? Why here? What's his play? More important, what's his game? And that's the end of that one.
The game is Gambit. That's what it is.
So this puts us in a time reference. This
Yeah.
is pretty much at the time that this lore book was given to us, Forsaken, or shortly before. This is when Drifter is first starting to come back from the outskirts of the system into the city.
So he's
And
got his I don't the derelict, is that what it's called?
yeah,
He's got
yep,
his derelict ship because that was gifted to him by the
by the nine.
Nine, correct?
Yep.
Um, which is funny because I'm reminded of a cutscene of where the Nine gifted him that, and in that cutscene, that's where he's playing cards with a dredgen.
Yeah.
And then he does the whole like moat thing. He's like behind you, and then the captain just slaps the piss out of the dredgen, knocks him right out of the ship, and then like starts to turn on Drifter, and then he's like, oh shit, and then turns into the Nine, and then poof, here's the derelict.
Yep. So Drifter is coming back.
Well, real quick, I guess in that aspect, since that is a dredgen kind of threatening him, they're pissed that he's left their clan or their cult.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, I would think, that you can't just like leave a cult following.
Right.
Because
I mean, look at Brother Vance. He had to get blipped out of existence to leave a cult.
Brother Vance kind of like made his own cult. But because he has secrets about the Shadows of Yore,
Oh,
where
sure.
their hideouts are,
all their
information.
new book,
I'm sure they don't.
Yeah.
Probably has access to copies of their Book of the Unmaking and whatnot. So yeah, they don't. I assume they don't like him being out on his own, but maybe perhaps he's kept himself out of the system. He's kind of been off everyone's radar.
Hopefully.
And now that he's coming back, Shin has taken notice, and I imagine the Shadows probably did too.
Yep.
So, but Shin sees this as, as a curiosity, and then is maybe an opportunity. And so the next chapter we'll read here is called Justified Means. And it goes like this. The Drifter wasn't always my target. In fact, he only came to my attention when he started running with them I'd call prey. Before that, he'd existed only as a rumor, the strange light bearer who journeyed beyond the system's edge, the lone wanderer who was only a guardian by reductive modern definitions. He had a ghost. He was touched by the light. His motivations, though, were his own. Some might say selfish, and I'd have to agree. In regard to the concepts of duty and devotion and using one's gifts to the betterment of humanity, not his play. City be damned, traveler be damned, light be damned. Which makes his run to the tower and his newfound benevolence all the more curious. I lost track of him when the traveler fell silent. Could be that severed connection drew him back. If so, I doubt it's something he would admit. Yet here he is, unwelcome, but with a gift for persuasion. I can't say it doesn't make me uneasy. There was, so we're clear, a time I'd call him a threat. There was a time I'd look to end him as punishment for the paths he'd tread. But things aren't quite so simple these days. Gaul taught us that. And while I still plan to punish those who have transgressed, I can also see the value in certain risks. This Gambit, the Drifter's strange little game, may just be one such. It requires care and a keen eye to ensure the means don't consume the ends, but I got a feeling our new friend might be a necessary catalyst. And if not, well, he sure makes for a fine cut of bait. And that's the end of that one.
I'm just thinking of the time jump that's kind of happened here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking I'm remembering how no, I guess that yeah, this had to have been a long jump because like Jaron Ward coming to God dang it. I'm gonna call it
Palamon.
Palpalimo or some shit.
Palamon. Yeah.
Palamon. I'm so bad with names, Smith. I'm so sorry. Jaron Ward coming to Palamon, that was still like Dark Ages, right? Like that's still
That
well,
was
not Dark Ages,
very early City Age.
very early City Age. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so not quite dark. We've kind of gone past the warlords, like
Oh yeah.
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, okay. I for some reason I was thinking we were still like that portion was still taking place like during Warlord and stuff like that. But like now where Shin's talking about, I mean we're post Gaul. Like this really
Yep.
is like happening kind of as the man. That means his journey. That means the Drifter's journey back from the Outer Edges. I'm still kind of like putting a timeline together of the Drifter becoming a Dredgen and then going into. It seems like he joined the Dredgens, decided, nope, that's not for me, then left the system with his
Yeah.
little group of whatever, and then was on his way back and happened across the one dredge and saying, hey, I see you're back in town, piss off. And then he's like, nope, not happening. And then gets gifted this thing and is like, okay, well, now what do I do? I guess I'll start playing Gambit. I start this Gambit game, but then like, where's the safest place for me to hold it? Well, shit, I'll just hold it in the tower. I've got kind of like diplomatic immunity while I'm in the tower. That nobody's going to shoot me down there. Where Shin's looking at this, going, "Okay, this guy was a Dredgen. I needed to shoot him. I needed to hunt him down and kill him. But now, like the world's a little different." And he talks about, Gaul taught us that, like the universe is a different place now. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
truly an evolving thing happening in front of our eyes. So yeah, that's yeah, the timeline there is just kind of like what always gets me is I keep thinking of this entire story happening like, oh, this was all Dark Age time, this is all olden time. No, this is happening kind of in the background.
Yeah, there's a lot of jumps. So yeah, the initial showdown between Jaren and Yor would have been, early-ish City Age. Probably um another decade or so before Shin and Yor had their showdown.
Because we talked about that as being like the first instance of the Golden Gun, possibly.
Right. Right.
And even Dredge and Yor, he was the supposedly the first one that's ever visit. Well, I say supposedly, we confirmed it. He
Yeah.
is the first one who ever visited the moon since it fell silent during the collapse. So I mean,
Yeah, because
that's
there had been rumors of these nightmares on the moon, but
right.
that was it.
But again, that's all pre-Crota,
Yep.
because I want to say before, because even Eris's trip to the moon was after a lot of Guardians had gone and died,
Yeah, it
right?
was after the Great Disaster, which is
Yeah,
where they sent an army of guardians. Essentially, I think they said it was it was numbered in the
hundreds.
multiples of thousands
Yeah,
of
hundreds of thousands.
guardians
Yeah.
that went to the moon to try and reclaim it from the hive and were decimated by Crota.
Yep. So yeah, so I
Um,
mean, as far as the timeline, this is really jumping a lot in between, and so I think that's where, like,
yep.
for me personally, I was getting a little confused at when the fuck this shit was happening, but
Yeah.
now I'm
So
getting a better understanding of it.
to clarify, he had his initial showdown. Then there was a long period of time where Shin was silent, where nothing was happening until around Taken King.
When the
Because
group found the ship
yep,
the ship over the ridge.
because Taken King was when the Shadows of Yore started, where that cult started revitalizing the idea of Dredge and Yore and kind of romanticizing the idea and the ideals of Dredge and Yore. And that's when Shin took notice and was like, okay, someone's trying to emulate his old enemy. And so that would have been around Forsaken, or excuse me, it would have been around Taken King. So presumably from that point where he talked to the Vanguard and they kind of turned him down, all the way to Gaul, all the way to the beginning of D2, he's been hunting and killing members of the Shadows of Yore.
Interesting. I'm curious. I'm
And
curious now if Oryx showing up in the universe in the Soul System was kind of like the catalyst for the shadows to be like, hey, maybe there is a grander power out there.
maybe so.
Because I
Maybe
mean,
so.
Oryx was a huge deal. Like when he came to town, that was a really big threat to have to deal with. And of course, we took him down, but still, that's yeah, no, that was probably the biggest threat the Destiny universe had to deal with. Um, I
Well,
guess
and
since
that's
Crota.
yeah, I mean that's when the Book of Sorrow started
Yep.
like, we know now from lore that we've read that ghosts have read the Books of Sorrow at this point in the game. So
Oh,
that's
sure,
probably
sure.
when the first translations were starting to like
Yeah,
circulate, was around that time, and the Hive were very much a focal point for Guardians in general as to like this is their philosophy. This is
yeah,
how they tick. And like that probably fed into, someone going, Yor was corrupted by the Hive. I
yeah.
wonder if I can find out more about that. And maybe that led to, the what eventually became the Shadows of Yor.
Sure, sure. I like it.
So we have, Shin, kind of the one man hunting party, hunting down these shadows from about Taken King to the beginning of D2, and uh, he is now we're entering Forsaken, and he is now like maybe I need to find a different way, or maybe sometimes you need to take a risk to get the reward kind of thing, and that's kind of how he's looking at Drifter. Like he's a risk, but maybe one I can use to my advantage. So, uh, with that, we'll move on to the next chapter here, which is titled Step into the Shade. And this one goes like this. I want to be clear. I do not trust him. You get the sense he's working to mend that, sure, but the end game will reveal the truth of his intentions. This con is a long one, friend. But if any are built to see it done, and see it done right, the Drifter is our man. So if we see it play out, his gambit and ours, it may not be ideal. In fact, I'd say far from it. It's just that I don't see another way forward. The light is fragile but quick. The dark is dense and slow. If we want to control the balance, tip it in our favor. If we want to confront those shadows who would see it shift further toward the night, we must play in the gray in between. We must draw them out. Many have fallen to this path. It's not one I tread lightly, but I've found the only way to beat a shadow is meet it in the shade. The vanguard won't allow it. They're noble, but they're flawed, frightened. Most guardians wouldn't dare it. Too many legends of heroes lost to such unpleasant pursuits. But things have changed. The Oryx slayers and their lack have danced within the Ascendant realms. The nightmare legends of bone walkers and nether worlds have been cast out into the light. Old fears are now trampled beneath enduring triumph. Now, if ever, is the time to step proud into the unknown and bathe it in our light. And if doing so draws the attention of enemies old and new, if we tempt damnation, so be it. We will stand ever vigilant and burn them all away. Or maybe the drifter pulls a double cross and our end is met. No way of knowing, no way to tell. I say we let it ride. Trust ourselves, trust our instincts, our light. And that's the end of that one.
But don't trust the drifter. I,
Don't trust the drifter.
I, I don't know, man. Every once in a while, he'll do something or say something, like especially this season with Sloan. Like he'll say something. I'm just like, he's not that bad. He's all right. I still don't. I still truly have no fucking clue what the deal with Gambit is. Like, a what is he doing conjuring all these taken into an arena for us to fight? Like, I don't know. The whole concept of Gambit, I still don't understand what the Gambit is, other than he's just created a way for us as Guardian, like a safe environment for us Guardians to like test ourselves against the coming darkness. Like that's maybe that is the Gambit. Maybe that is just the can you survive the coming darkness? But like,
So
yeah, I don't
I
know.
think Gambit has a couple different layers to what it accomplishes. Um,
Okay,
and remember that because when we finish this book, I want to talk about some of those because
okay.
this book is going to talk about a few of them, but I think there's more going on there.
In other words, I'm
Uh,
skipping ahead again, and I need to shut the hell up and listen.
I mean, you said it, not me, but
Yeah,
but no,
yeah.
they're good. Those are good questions because that is definitely something to be thinking about in this. So we now get into the next chapter here, which is interesting conversation between the two. Uh, and this one is titled Artifacts and Old Friends. And it goes like this. By chance, he and I crossed paths in a neutral setting. Didn't give me his name, just called himself a drifter. Told him if that's how it was, he could call me pal. He laughed at that, got comfortable, got all kinds of open about where he'd been, what he was hauling, even dropped a tip on where an old friend of mine was hiding. I still wonder if he knows who I really am. He told me he left the system as soon as he was risen. Not immediately, sure, had to get his bearings, find a ship, get it flying, but as soon as, he was good as gone. Drawn to the outer, he says. I can appreciate. He says he's seen the deep side of Jupiter, been to the core mines of Saturn, name drops old myths no one's heard, the alluvial crux, the shift chasms below Ilios, the fourth tomb of Nezarec. Goes on about the idols of Lower Sol, the treasure of Exodus Prime, the solar engine of Dead Star 6. I think he's making most of it up, but he's got relics and etchings. He's got materials not of this system. Odd metals, obsidian flames, thought engines, edible null cakes, and stuffed something that looks like a rabbit biofused with a cephalopod. He keeps all this stuff to himself, his gets, he calls them. If they're for show, they put on a great one, but to what end? The clutter of oddities he's got shipside ain't nothing compared to what he's hauling. That big black mass of nothing you ain't never seen before. He calls it an artifact, but it's more than that. Just don't know what exactly. He said he got it far out as he's ever been. Said it was from a place cold enough to snuff out your light. I asked him, was it Vex? Hive? Cagey is all hell. He said, no, it was just other, and it was powerful. Maybe. That was his qualifier. Maybe. Why the hell bring it into the inner system then? Maybes are trouble. But he's got an answer for everything. He says, brother, maybe are where the real treasure hide. He could tell I wasn't satisfied, but I also knew he wasn't lying. The chunk was other for sure, and his ghost said its readings were off the charts, but abstract, unlike anything anyone had encountered. Can't say that made me comfortable, but then the drifter, with his easy manner and eager charm, asked if I'd ever met a man in black named Callum. He was clearly changing the subject, but he was lucky enough, or smart enough, to pick one I had interest in. and I could respect that. And that's the end of that one.
I'm telling you, man. I don't think the Drifter lies.
I don't think he
I
does either.
I think everything he says is literally the truth and can be taken at face value. Like there might be deeper stuff in there. I don't know, but I I think he's the most truthful being in the tower for sure.
Yeah. Now, I some of it might be a little embellished. Like, I don't think he left the system as soon as he was we know he didn't leave the
Sure,
system as soon
sure.
as he was risen.
It's
Like,
it's like he'll tell a fact, but it's like it's off a little bit.
right, right. But it's just enough truth for it not to be
Yeah.
a lie exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do they call it?
So,
Embellishment is, I guess, is what he
yeah,
does a lot of embellishing, I guess.
yeah, but he name drops Callum.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the
Uh,
dredgens. Dredgen, shit.
was that Dredgen Vale?
Vale?
No, no, Dredgen Vale was a different one.
See, now I'm going to make you Google shit.
You're gonna make me look stuff up again.
That's what I'm here for, Myth. To make you look stuff up because my squirrel
Uh,
brain told me to go myself.
Callum Soul is Dredgen Cull.
Dredgen Cull.
Dredgen
Oh,
Cull.
I should make Cull, Callum, Cullum,
Yeah.
Callum. There we go.
Um,
I gotta find some
so
connection there. That way, my squirrel brain will keep those threads tied together.
there you go. So yeah, he name drops Callum, and it again, even Shin's like, does he know who I am? Is he doing this on purpose? Because
He's
that's
got
a
to have a
subject I'm
clue.
interested in.
Yeah,
Yeah, like so even Shin is a little like, I don't know what to think of this guy, you know?
yeah.
But needless to say, the name drop of Callum means something. And Shin acts upon that. So we see this from Shin's point of view in the next chapter, which is titled Shadow on a Wall. And it goes like this. Now, I knew Callum by another name, a hated name. The Drifter had run with Callum's crew for some time. I get the sense he would have been one and the same as them lockstep down Sorrow's Road if they had met a little sooner. Hell, maybe they were lockstep. Maybe his gambit was theirs. Maybe the bait set when the Drifter first came to the tower was for me and mine. Maybe all we were playing at was our own end. But all that's not worth the effort to dwell on. A path had been set. Best to walk it. If the turn round that final bend leads to death, all we can do is return the favor. Drifter told me Callum had a spot, a hold he used all his own. Said his crew had been running separate jobs to keep me off their trail. Said they knew 1-to-1 they'd have a hard time walking away, but rolling together, increased their footprint, made 'em easier to trail. Made sense, with the 6 of 'em, Callum's crew, I mean, spread out, each running their own search for whatever it is they're searching for, gave me cross signals. I had heard conflicting stories of their deeds from one end of the system to the next, and I had a hard time keeping up. But this info, Callum's safe space, it was a lead worth a look. 2 weeks into a living hell, I thought Drifter had fed me a line, maybe trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. There were signs of a shadow's presence, but they were cold, old signs. I waited, anyway. Shot me some taken, killed the time. And the wait paid off. Callum entered. Could hear him before I saw him. He was arguing with his ghost. I waited on the hope they'd spill the goods and I could use that to track the others, but no such luck. Their words were heated. Callum had gone too far. His ghost was angry. I don't blame her. It caught me that she always used his proper name, Callum, not the other. She still cared, still hoped. And then she screamed, and I drew and stepped into the light. Callum had his ghost in his left hand. It was silent. With his right, he had stabbed her through the optics with a sickly dagger, a tool carved from the jagged spikes fired from a weapon I shall not name. The ghost was dead, and Callum just laughed. I think because he knew what came next. He and I had words, told me I'd never kill 'em all. And then he dropped the shell and went for his shooter. And I lit my fire and painted him on the wall without another word. And that's the end of that one.
Holy shit! Cherry fucking pie all over the wall. No, even less than that. Just black dust.
Yeah,
Holy
like the name of the
shit.
chapter.
Oh,
Just a
yeah.
shadow on a wall.
I see. It's not a shadow. It's the burnt remains of the body spread on the... Jesus, Myth! Holy shit. Well, okay. Yeah. Callum went nuts.
Yep.
He fully gave in to the desire or whatever that the teachings, the cult. He fully it engulfed him. That was it. And his ghost, very much like Dredgen Yours ghost, like pleading with him, like, hey, this is wrong. This is you are lost. Like, help me help you come back to the light. And then he just, what is he doing carrying around a freaking thorn bullet? Like, what the hell?
Apparently this was a tad premeditated.
Yeah, slightly.
So,
but okay, so it's, well, in that space, now, and again, I know I'm probably jumping ahead in story time, but we visit that space in the Malfeasance in the Malfeasance quest, in the alternate corrupted is a strike mission. I don't know what you call it in that point.
Kind
I guess
of a
it's
separate mission.
Yeah. So now where he gets gunned down is in the Ascendant Plane.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that important?
Not necessarily. He was using that little pocket of the Ascendant
Gotcha.
Plane as his safe space, as Shin calls it. Like this was his secret hideaway, essentially. That Drifter happened to tell him about. And so that's why he was there waiting for Callum to show up, and then happened to see this confrontation.
Jesus, though, like, holy crap.
Yeah. So, yep, Callum just went full dark, killed his own ghost, and Shin just so happened to be there to be like, yep, you're gone, buddy.
You're
I'm
evil.
gonna do my job now. Yeah.
You're evil. I think that's kind of like that's kind of the theme going on throughout this whole story is the whole, like, what is evil and what is good. And I feel like that's kind of where, like, the Dredgens, even thinking all the way back to Dredgen Yor, of trying to understand what is evil, and for him to have visited the moon and had the PTSD that he did, to kind of like see the light as evil, or see not necessarily the light by itself as evil, but like everything is evil, like everything needs to end. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that's happening throughout this whole thing is this new cult of Yor, the Dredgens, the Shadows of Yor, are very much tempting fate of trying to figure out what is evil and what isn't evil. And at some point in time, in Callum's timeline, he fully gave in and fully succumbed to evil. I think of that in the literal sense of, like, he fully believed he was doing good by killing his ghost.
No,
So
I mean
yeah,
even Yor said it at to Jaren Ward's ghost originally. She said, you are pure evil, and
yeah,
Yor responded with, "No, I'm the only good one here."
yeah, yep, yep.
Like,
It's
yeah.
all that point of view thing. Like again, it very Star Warsy, right? Like very much like
Yeah, a little bit.
from the point of view of the Sith, the Jedi are evil, and the Jedi are a force that needs to be done away with. So yeah,
Mhm.
this is a very interesting theme that's kind of going on here. This idea of like what is good and what is evil.
So, needless to say, Shin has made his judgment on Callum and has removed him from the equation, using the Drifter's information to know where he was to do so. Uh, so that leads us into the next chapter, which is titled "Bright Side of a Bad Idea," and it goes like this. At this point, the Drifter had me comfortable with the idea of him, if only just. Been a long time since trust came easy. I still needed to understand, needed to grasp what he was after, or what was after him. Survival depends on knowing what's coming best you can. This is before I came to you, but only just. This is me smoothing out the rough angles before risking a proposition I know carries baggage. Anyway, he and I went out, found a spot we could be alone, and he showed me. He showed me proof that all his relics, artifacts, treasures, and junk weren't just for show. Our shady friend actually went out and lassoed himself a little piece of hell. While Guardians have been waging war with the Taken, while the city's newest legends have been trespassing on ascendant ground and kicking in Taken skulls, the Drifter's been playing Warlock, which he ain't, if that wasn't clear. Not by common understanding, anyway. In drawing strength from curiosity and using knowledge to bend understanding to his will, this wily bastard has long since shed any pretense of class or limitation therein. And while you lot been having your fun, drunk on loot, dancing on the corpse of your enemies, he's been watching, learning, stealing, and planning. Now, I make no promises that what he's done was ever intended for the greater good. Point of fact, I actually doubt it. But here we are. He's kit bashed Vex Tech with fallen components, married it to Hive magic, and scavenged Golden Age science with a sprinkling of who knows what, and he's. Hold up. I know this sounds bad. Sounds like just the kind of trouble we squash, but he's secured a pocket of the ascendant plane. Not a throne world, nothing that grand, but a big enough chunk to matter. And he's gone and caged an army, a taken army. Leftovers from Oryx? Something new? Something old? Something hers? Can't say. Don't know. But he has 'em there. He says it's to hold 'em, to study 'em. But the best bet says his intentions aren't so clean. Purity of intent aside, this is what he wanted to show me. This is why he's here. His Gambit. He wants to help humanity. Help us poor fools who call ourselves guardians learn how to control not only the taken, but the powers that bind them. Sounds like a bad idea. I agree. Bigger picture? Sometimes bad ideas are the best option. Hell, sometimes they're the only one. And that's the end of that one.
Do do you think that the Drifter? I don't know, man. Do you think he's trying to hold an army? Like, what if I can take my? Because I mean, we think of the Taken, and they truly are will-less entities. Like all will has been stripped from
Yep.
them. And so they're kind of like mindless drones. But if you can have a mindless drone and imprint whatever will you want onto them, I mean, that's the best freaking army you could ever use to fight the darkness.
Yeah.
Like,
So
damn, dude, Drifter might be the greatest freaking Guardian in the history of Guardians.
Drifter has a lot of fires and a lot of irons in the fire.
He does.
So I think this is one purpose of Gambit. Drifter has always been, ever since his very first resurrection, they're like, yeah, light is good. Go to the Traveler. He's been, nah, fuck that noise.
No, fuck that. Not touching that.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to decide what I think is good.
He literally looks at like the ghost is like, go that way. And he's like, nope. And does a 180 and walks the opposite direction. And is like, if that's where everything good is going, or what everyone thinks is good is going, I'm getting as far away from that as possible.
So if we know the Drifter has decided he's not going to follow anyone's doctrine.
Right.
But we also know that he's not opposed to using power to his own advantage, as long as he can do so freely.
Yep.
And if even half the things he has told Shin are true about the places he's been and the things he's done, he probably has a enormous wealth of knowledge about all of the different powers and abilities and entities and things that we have never even encountered before. Right. And so for him to, when the loss of the light, especially when Gaul took the Traveler and cut off our connection with the light, if you remember from our Drifter series, and if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it.
I was going to say that series ties a lot into this episode.
It really does.
Maybe definitely listen to that series.
At that time, he was on an ice planet with creatures that had light suppressing abilities. And he's the only one that walked off that planet because he and his crew essentially like went crazy when they all lost their light and killed each other.
Lost their freaking minds.
And he's the only one that walked out of that. So I think that made him understand, okay, the light is important, but there needs to be a backup if that's not there.
Right.
And I think that is,
and he's always about a backup plan.
Right. He always contingencies upon contingencies is Drifter's thing.
I mean, I'm thinking of like all the names of the guns from like the Season of the Reckoner. It's like bug out bag, backup
spare
plan,
rations,
spare rations. All these little names that are like plan B, plan C, plan D, plan like all the way to plan F or all the way to plan Z. Once you get to plan Z, you just start over at plan AA and just keep going.
And so I think again, Drifter's being truthful here. One of Gambit's purposes is probably Drifter's not going to complain about having a standing army on hand.
Of course
but
not.
B probably truly is to try and show people, himself included, that, okay, if I throw enough Taken at you, and if I study the Taken long enough and study you fighting them long enough, can I eventually understand the powers that made them and then use them myself?
Can I start using that? Can I start using the powers? Because that's like the ultimate game of like how to become a stronger guardian.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like, I mean, we know that the light has been used for different things other than like, a golden gun or a shadow shot or whatever. I mean, look at Osiris. He used it to create reflections of himself to study multiple timelines at the same time and then report back in on himself. Yeah. So to think of this as just another tool, the Drifter really is kind of thinking of like the ultimate end game of like what other tools can I gain from this. And I do like the idea of like it's kind of like a two-way thing. It's like the Guardians that he invites in and that fight the Taken are now training themselves to fight this ultimate big baddie. But then he can also use that information, like you're saying, as a study point and saying, okay, maybe I can understand what is happening to these creatures so I can use that power myself. He really is like the most warlock hunter I've ever met.
Yeah. I mean, and even Shin's like, he doesn't have a class anymore. He doesn't follow those rules. He's just his own thing.
A a warter, a hunt lock. I don't know. I think I like warter better.
Warter? Okay. uh,
Warter lock. Well, and real quick, what's the name of his revolver?
Trust.
Is it
Yeah.
Trust? I think that's a key thing here too. Is I don't know that it matters to him or even possibly us or anyone around him whether he's telling the truth or telling lies. At the end of the day, trust is what matters.
Yep. And that, I mean, that's his sign off. Like he says that when he's talking to the Guardian, he will sometimes, like, he'll make a statement and he'll end the dialogue with, trust. Like, trust me, I'm on your side kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I but yeah, so Shin recognizes that, like, okay, Drifter probably has other intentions, but I can also like see the validity in what he's trying to learn about here. And the
Sure.
training of guardians, and like, so shit, he says, like, it's a bad idea, but sometimes that's all we got.
Yeah.
And
You use what you can.
and even Shin at the beginning of this was like, when Gaul took the Traveler, that changed everything. Like, understanding that
Absolutely.
the light can just disappear,
Yep.
I think really made Shin, go, yeah, a backup is not a bad idea. Another way of defending
Absolutely.
yourself is not the worst idea in the world. But he also sees Gambit as an opportunity for other things. Um, and so we see this here in the price of a double-sided coin. And this one goes like this. So here's the play. Ours, I mean. You have places, cleared zones, not necessarily the safest spots, but not wholly untamed. I say we, you, allow the drifter to run his game, and let's you and me watch. We watch the action, we watch him, we watch who plays and who doesn't. And on top of that, we watch their aggression. We watch for who's diving too deep, too fast, who's less keen to grow their knowledge, their strength, and who's simply looking to unleash themselves. The true promise of this gambit is what you and I can learn about our enemies, maybe even about ourselves. That has to be first and foremost. After that, we assess Gambit's value and risk, and if the danger escalates, we shut it down. If any guardians go too far, we shut it down. Get them too, if need be. My gut says we won't have to. My gut says, against everything I was raised to believe, this is our next step forward. And here's the rub. You know this, but only fair that I reiterate. As secret as this whole mess is, and as vigilant as we'll need to be, word must spread as well. And when it does, I need you to corral Zavala and any others who won't understand. Because the other side of that jade coin is the trap being set. This long con. The final bend after a long haul. If Drifter plays his part, and I believe he will, then those who test the edges of the light will hear tell and come a calling, and the shadows will be brought to the light. But the ruse must be complete. Every guardian must play their part. And if you can buy in, if you can see the value in what's to come, then we roll. And if not, well, you can stop this here and now. I'll put a bullet in him and be done with it. You just say the word. And that's the end of that one.
This is kind of interesting. So now I'm starting to kind of see another aspect of Gambit that Gambit itself is just that. It's a ruse. It's a gambit of, if I show something powerful enough that isn't light, I can draw out the rest of these shadows of the ore,
Mm-hmm.
and then Shin can do what Shin does and just take him out then and there. Because up until this point, Shin's just been kind of on his own, trying to hunt him down one by one, and he even says that like this could take forever. Like I don't know that I could. Like he even tries to get more information out of Callum before he jumps out and jumps Callum. Um, but yeah, maybe that is just kind of like another angle that the Drifter is using Gambit for, is to draw these because again, anything in this universe that's going to see power is going to see Gambit as some type of power
Mm-hmm.
struggle, or some type of training ground, whatever you want to call it, some way to test yourself, or challenge yourself, uh, and that's exactly what the Dredgens would do. Like they want to show that, yeah, we are the end all be all in what is powerful in the universe. So I think Drifters using Gambit is kind of like a bait.
Yeah. I don't know that Drifter is intending for it to be bait, but Shin definitely is. Shin is
Oh, sure,
saying
sure,
like,
sure.
"Hey, look, we can learn from this, and in addition to that, it's going to draw in other people that want to learn about, the dark. And some of them are going to be trying to learn about it in the same way that you and I are." And it seems he's
Oh,
addressing this to Ikora, I assume, because he's talking about like you need to
right.
corral Zavala. Um,
And she's the only
right.
one that can.
So, I think, he's saying like this will give us an opportunity to learn about the dark, to learn about what makes Taken tick, and it's going to draw people that are also interested in what makes Taken tick. But some of those
All the
people,
edlords of the
right?
system.
Some of those people aren't going to want to just know what makes them tick and how to fight them better. Some of those people are going to dive deeper into the dark, and they're going to be
Yep.
drawn to this, and we're going to watch for that. And if we see it, then I can take care of it.
Now end of
Yeah.
yep. And basically end the problem before it even
Yeah.
starts. Like once we start seeing, like, hey, we now have a Taken training ground. Let's start, because so I guess that's the other thing too that's important, that I don't know if it's mentioned at all yet so far. Alongside Gambit was the Reckoning,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but maybe Reckoning was a little after. Was that this? Yeah, because that would have been
Reckoning was
because it would have been
season of
Forsaken
the Forsaken was
of the
Gambit.
Joker.
Reckoning was season of the Drifter.
Which
Drifter's
would have been
particular season.
after, but that would have been the second
Yeah.
season of
Yeah.
that year, because it was Forsaken, then the Black Armory stuff, then that
Yeah.
one. So yeah, I guess with Reckoning would have brought even more, or maybe am I jumping ahead again, Myth?
No, I mean, Reckoning was an evolution on Gambit, and Reckoning, I think, veered a little more into what Drifter wanted out of Gambit, and less into what Shin was using it for. Um,
Right. Because Drifter definitely had, like, obviously having this army of Taken and being able to study the Taken and study the powers of the Taken to figure out, how can I do that? Because if it is just a paracausal power, I'm paracausal, and therefore I should be able to do
yeah, and
that.
Reckoning
Um,
was also very nine focused. It was communing with the
yeah,
the emissary of the Nine, whom Drifter has a previous relationship with, and like
history. Yeah,
he I think he was also trying to learn about the Nine through Reckoning in addition to everything else.
sure. Because the Nine ultimately are who gifted him this derelict, which
Right.
is the pocket universe, the its own little space
Yeah.
time. Like I don't know what to think of the derelict now. Like I really don't. It's such an odd thing for the Nine to have gifted him that. But again, thinking of his relationship with God, I can't remember her name now.
Orin was her original name.
Orin. Yep. The emissary of the Nine. Um, she very much still has, I think, maybe not feelings for him, but definitely something is there for her to have been like the main person to have transitioned over to being the emissary and then coming back to him and going, hey, here's this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's tied to us. It's tied to the ascendant plane. It's use it how you see fit. We see you. And again, thinking through the entire prophecy dungeon at the end where he talks about light, dark. It's all gray. There really is no like good or evil. These are all just tools. Maybe the emissary saw his logic in that and gave him this space and said, okay, if they truly are tools, learn how to
I
master
think
them.
that's exactly
And
it, because Drifter at this point in time was really the only one, or one of the only ones, that had that mindset of like, there is no
right,
morality to these powers. It's who uses it and how they use it. And he was by far the most well traveled and probably well knowledged, most well read or experienced about all of the other things outside the system. So, like, it
yeah,
makes sense.
things outside of like even just the simpleness of fallen,
Right.
hive, vex, cabal, light, dark, things that like are beyond all of that. I mean, the shit on that ice planet that he came across, the light suppressing stuff that was already there, and then the light gets taken away from him, and he's like, "Well, shit, we've already been dealing with this for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I kind of have, we kind of know what to do with it." So yeah, he really truly is like the the most warlock hunter ever. He has no class now.
He's a drifter.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I do like that idea of like the nine looking at him going, okay, well he truly understands the idea of light and dark. It's a gray area. Here's this here if you truly can master that idea, here's the tools to do such.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm starting to think more and more the primary purpose of Gambit is to study the Taken, study how the Taken fight, study how we fight the Taken, study how light interacts with the Taken, and then see if there's a way to master that power of the Taken to then use it in the the final shape, the final
Yeah.
battle that is to come.
And then on top of all that, Shin is using it as a litmus test for, are you going to go crazy when you're exposed
Yeah,
to, dark information or not?
yeah. And then to be able to look at Guardians, go, okay, you see light and dark, and you have such an absolute thought on it of light, good, dark, evil. But then you start accepting the dark as like, okay, maybe they are gray. But then you start leaning too hard in the dark and go, no, dark best,
Yeah.
everything else bad, and go, okay, nope, in that right now, boop.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, okay, yeah, no, all right,
So I'm going to skip the next chapter. It's titled Checking the Chamber. It's just them talking about setting up a combat arena for the very first Gambit trial run, essentially.
yeah.
Um,
Let me guess, it's the EDZ map, isn't it?
they don't specify. But yeah, so that Checking the Chamber chapter is a discussion between him and Shax, actually Shin and Shax, because Shax's Red Jacks are the ones that kind of cleared out the area
Yep.
for it to be a Gambit space.
I mean, and who else to better get information on training grounds than
Right?
Shax? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the entire Crucible. They're all just training grounds.
So the next one I am going to read is the following, which is called A Matter of Trust. And this is presumably happens immediately after that very first Gambit match trial run has concluded. And it's Shin sending a message to Shax about his thoughts on it. And it goes like this. Well, that didn't go as planned, but your guardians rallied and saw it through, and the Drifter did his best to fill them in on the sudden change state he dropped on them. I was seconds from rushing in and toasting him, but he handled the situation and set the teams up to finish the match. To be honest, I thought it would all go much worse. What concerns me is he'd never mentioned the word primeval before now. Not once. And that's a problem, for obvious reasons. Tearing soldiers of the deep from another realm is crossing a bridge too far as is, but those things? Those weren't normal taken, possessed and set to rage. They were born of that shadow realm, and they were angry. Worse, they were hungry for light. I could feel it, even a ways off. Their aura and their rage weighed on me, cast a shadow I could feel in my core. That he kept them from us is unsettling. He says it was a necessary deception. I put my gun to his head and asked if there were any others he'd mind sharing. He just laughed, as he does, twiddling that coin of his, and smiled that winner's smile. Told me to take a load off. I almost shot him right then and there. He said we'd never have agreed to let him run his competition if we had known the full extent of the danger. He's not wrong, probably. But it's hard to move forward knowing the thing we've known all along is true. The drifter can't be trusted. Yet what choice do we have? Again, the risks are justified by the promise of the ends. I leave it all in your capable hands. I'll be watching. My presence only muddies the waters, so I'll be watching from afar. If we're lucky, this Gambit will draw the interest of the rest of his old crew, and the shadows will make themselves known. Till then, I'll return to the hunt. See if I can cut 'em off at the pass, wherever it may be. Oh, and before I forget, and at the risk of repeating myself, keep my real name off your lips. He don't know my face, but he sure as hell knows my name. This all goes sideways otherwise. And that's the end of that one.
Ooh. Sounds like
So,
Shin's trying to keep a little bit of a secret here.
so Shin, I think, has seen Gambit and seen its potential to draw in the shadows, but he's never actually talked to Dredgen about that being one of the reasons that he's going to let Gambit go. That
Right.
he has convinced the Vanguard, hey, let this Gambit thing happen because we can learn a lot and we can weed out the bad seeds. But Drifter doesn't necessarily know that deal, that idea is in the back of everyone's minds when they're letting him do these things.
Right. Well, and there's two things that come to mind too. First off, the fact that the primevals are not, they're not
Aren't
taken.
taken?
Right.
Yeah.
They are taken, as in the enemy type taken, but they haven't been like stripped of will using the power of taken. They are literally born inside the ascendant plane and know only hunger of the light, meaning they are just pure shadow, pure evil, prime evils.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of makes a lot of sense now. And also the fact that Shin is watching these games from afar. I would love it if like mid fight, like you're like starting to take down the primeval, but like you keep getting that one invader that keeps killing you over and over and over again, and just out of nowhere he just golden guns him off the map. Right? Like the invader pops in and then like instant boom, and all it shows is you were killed by Shin Malphur. And that's it. Like that's what the invader sees, and they're like, "Son of a bitch!" Because now they have given into darkness. Like, wouldn't that be
that,
just a neat?
that would be
Like,
kind of cool. Not gonna lie, that would be pretty cool.
yeah,
Uh,
probably help a few of my matches.
mine too.
Just saying, man.
But yeah, so he's Shin's like, we know now for sure we cannot trust this guy. He's got secrets he has not told us.
Nah, he's okay.
But
you can trust him. He's got a gun named Trust. How can you not trust him?
Right. Interestingly enough, even though he's interacted with Shin a little bit and like showed Shin, yeah, look at the Ascendant, plane that I have and all that. So this kind of confirms that Drifter at least is putting on the the mask of like he doesn't know that this person he's talking to is the Shin Malphur. Because he says,
okay.
he knows my face. They've met and talked with each other, but he doesn't know his name. So like,
Is that why he's always referred to him as the man with the golden gun?
yeah. Well, I should preface. He knows Shin Malphur is the man with the golden gun. But he doesn't know that the person he has been meeting to
Gotcha.
set up Gambit is Shin.
Gotcha. Shin is keeping all of his intentions to himself,
Yeah.
but he basically acting as just some rando guardian, kind of like, hey, I'm a
That's
little higher ranking up
yeah.
than Joe Blow Schmo over there, but I'm not I'm not anyone of import. When in all reality, he is
Yeah.
obviously the killer of Dredgens. So yeah, okay, I'm following.
So the final entry from this lore book is titled "The Long Con," and this one goes like this: Can you do it, Drifter? Can you make the man with the golden gun the villain in the eyes of those who attempt the dark? It's the final piece. Can you make them fear him? Because if you can, any guardian who truly embraces the nature of your gambit will find themselves a real connection to the mantle of that dead legend. They will take bare that vile title. They will wear his vile colors. They will challenge and even remake the infamy of his deeds. Through these temptations, they will grow strong, but the hatred must be true. Driven by the power they find in your wicked game, sealed in the fear that you will seed in the name of the man with the golden gun. I wish there was another way, but your old brothers and sisters in shadow are too far gone. You've seen it. You know as well as me, better than me. The path they walk offers only ruin. They must be stopped. So spread your unholy word, brother. Give new life to old myths. And when that hateful name Dredgen spreads throughout the system, his real disciples will have no choice but to confront their sins. And you and me, we'll be the ones hearing their confessions. Oh, and one more thing. Let me know who has the gall to change their names. I might want to give them a word or two. And that's the end of that one.
Give him the last word or two.
So this is presumably in the form of a letter, a missive of some
Yeah.
sort. Shin telling Drifter like, "Hey, run your game. Give all the guardians that come to you these temptations, and if any of them start to fall to those temptations, then let me know."
Like
And
put the fear of God in him through the
yeah,
through the idea of the man with the golden gun. Like, yeah, you can play with darkness, but if you start following it, he's the boogeyman's gonna get you,
yep,
and you're screwed.
yep. And if anyone ignores that warning, then they're fair game.
All right, so there it is. Anyone with the Dredgen title out there, you're all screwed.
Well, I think he specifically says if he knows like that the title of Dredgen is going to spread, and his vile colors, apparently Dredgen Yor was a green and black person.
Hey, I like green and black.
Oh, it's a cool aesthetic for sure, but Yor ruined it for
Am,
all of us apparently. So
am I a dredge? Am I the bad guy?
are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies, Smith? We do have a lot of skulls on a lot of our armor.
This is
I'm
true.
just gonna put that out there.
But so he's saying like, but not only do they have to do these things, not only do they have to use this power, but they have to hate the light. They have to
That
also,
I think it's
be driven to
yeah.
the dark side, quote unquote.
Yeah, they literally have to view it as from a certain point of view. Like they
Yeah.
have to see the light as evil and then the dark as good. Like as soon as they make that shift, like playing with the dark again, that's all cool, fine and dandy. Taking on the dredging title, cool, don't care. It's when you cross that path over into the light is truly evil, and I'm accepting the dark as good. That's when it becomes
Yeah.
excuse me. That's when it becomes an issue, and that's when Shin will take matters into his own hands.
Yeah, and in addition to that, Shin is anticipating that seeing a bunch of these dredgens pop up everywhere is going to make the real ones real mad, and
Oh,
they're going to
absolutely.
come out of the woodwork, and he's also going to use that opportunity to deal with them.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Again, using kind of having a secret agenda for Gambit for himself. Like, yeah, you do whatever you think you're gonna do, Gambit, with Dredgen or Mr. Drifter, whatever you want to be called these days. But I'm gonna also use it for my own personal gain and not tell you about it.
Yeah. Which, spoilers, Drifter's a lot smarter than that. He knows exactly what is going on and tells us as much to our guardian during Forsaken as part of the Malfeasance quest. So Drifter is working with Shin. He knows the person he's been working with is Shin. And he knows
Does Shin know that he knows that he's Shin?
Not necessarily.
This is a confusing amount of what the hell is going on right now.
I know. So
Shin. So okay. So let me get a quick like understanding what Shin has come to the Drifter as not Shin.
Right. Is just a person. Has never given a name.
Right, and has said do these things, and then has also reported and Shin has also reported this stuff back to Shax and back to. Does Shax and all them know who Shin is?
Oh yeah, they know who Shin Malphur
and Ikora
is.
As well. Like I think he talks to Ikora there. He tells Ikora to set Zavala straight. So it reports back to all these guys. So I guess they're kind of like using Shin as like a secret double agent.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
A lot of spy shit going on here. Drifter is giving the persona or assumption that Drifter doesn't know who Shin is. But now it turns out that Drifter actually knows exactly who Shin is and knows that he's been dealing with Shin this whole time.
But Yep, that's accurate.
Okay.
And I think Drifter has let it ride because Drifter knows, like, hey, he's gonna get my game being played. You know, this
right. Like I think that's the bigger deal. Is like he'll kind of follow along with this whole thing as long as Gambit can be played.
And so, but eventually,
man, I kind of want to play more Gambit now.
Now that, yeah, I know, right?
Right, like it's now it kind of seems like there's a lore reason to play Gambit.
So now that Gambit is established at this point, by the time we're playing it in Forsaken, you know, Gambit is established. He has arenas for it. He has, you know, the banks and the rules, and all of this is set up, and has kind of been under the table greenlit by the Vanguard via Shin Malphur's recommendation. And now Drifter has decided, all right, I'm established. I have everything I want. I don't want to be under Shin's control anymore. And so when the Guardian, in the course of playing Gambit, collects the essence of a primeval, this little orb of primeval energy, Drifter looks at it and goes, you know what? I think I can use that to get out from under Shin's thumb. And so he sends us to find an old buddy of his who had a prototype gun frame that he and the Drifter worked on back when Drifter was still a dredgen. That he thinks he can graft this primeval essence into to make it into a weapon that could be used against Shin if he ever needed to.
I'm just saying, people, stop grafting shit you find in the dark places onto guns. It's bad. It'll lead to bad things. I'm just putting it out there.
That old buddy was Callum.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
And so that's why we go through the mission of going to the little Ascendant Realm pocket that was Callum's, you know, safe house. And Drifter at the time is expecting us to get there and find Callum or find maybe Callum's stash or whatever. What he is not expecting us to find is the body of Callum's ghost and what's left of Callum painted on a rock.
The shadow on the wall.
Yeah. And we, when you get there, you get to listen to the discussion between Callum's ghost and Callum himself. Unfortunately, I was not able to find that recording anywhere. I'm sure it's somewhere, and I just didn't search the right things or something. But
Sure.
it more or less boils down
you
to.
can technically, I think, still go
I
play
think you
that mission.
can. I think you can. Yeah.
If you've never done the Malfeasance quest line and you have the Malfeasance quest in your quest log, or as part, or if you go to the like little kiosk in the tower, the Forgotten Exotic Quest or whatever, and you can pick it up, and then you can go through that whole quest line. You can go through the Corrupted still,
Yeah.
and play that mission.
So, needless to say, the conversation didn't have anything super important in it. It mostly boiled down to what we talked about before. Like, you're lost to the dark.
Yep.
You're just Callum to his ghost saying you're just a handicap. You don't see me for who I am, blah, blah, blah. So, we know how it ended at the very least. Callum stabbed his ghost, and then Shin put an end to all of it. But we do recover from there the weapon frame that Drifter wanted us to find in the first place. So we bring that back to the Drifter. There's a couple other steps in the quest of like kill X amount of Taken and things like that. But what it boils down to is we bring those parts to the Drifter and he makes the malfeasance. And when we do that, his dialogue at the end of the quest is, I finally have an answer for the man with the golden gun. And that's something you and me built together. What do you say we call it malfeasance? Sure, I shot bigger guns, but this thing is weaponized heat death. Pure atrophy. And it's the key to my freedom from him. Fact is, you don't outdraw the gunslinger. No one can. But my entire crew, armed with this, we don't have to outdraw him. We just have to get our shots in. And he dies too. And make no mistake, you're part of my crew now. So malfeasance is the Drifter's contingency for Shin.
I love it. Malfeasance. Okay. Confession time. I've been using the malfeasance like unironically for like years.
It's a
because
fun
it
gun.
is the smoothest fucking 180 hand cannon in the game.
It is.
It has zero recoil. The reticle doesn't freaking move. It is the smoothest firing hand cannon in the game, and I love it. And the fact that and again, kind of going back to the idea of, or going back to the lore reason of how the gun operates. What the whole thing of malfeasance is, you shoot 5 shots. Those 5 shots burrow into the target and cause it to explode. And what the Drifter's saying here, the thing with malfeasance is it acts with other malfeasances. So if you have 5 guardians shoot a target once, each with 1 bullet, those 5 count as being 5 bullets in the target and then blow up. Yep. So I've always wanted to like do it as like a DPS thing of have like 6 hunters with the lucky pants.
Yeah. Yep.
All running malfeasance and just be like, okay, let's see how much DPS we can actually do on something, because I think it'd be actually pretty neat and pretty big.
I bet you're right.
Because that means that especially in a raid, because you got 6 people, so every shot being fired is an explosion for a 20-round magazine that then you dodge into the next 20 rounds and do it again. I mean, that's a lot of damage to be pumping out. And the thing is, like I said, you just have to land the shot. It doesn't have to be a headshot. It doesn't matter where it lands. 5 bullets coalesce into a giant explosion and a bunch of tiny explosions with it. So yeah, but that's the idea, right? Like, you can't outdraw the man with the golden gun, but if I have enough of these hit him, he's going down.
Yep.
Like, we'll all go down. The 5 guys that are there taking him on will go down too. But sacrifices must be made type situation there.
But he's going with us.
Yeah.
So Drifter has this contingency plan now.
And I love that it has a catalyst now too.
Yes. Yes. So he has malfeasance is his contingency plan for Shin ever to come a calling for a drifter. Drifter's like, I've armed my crew with these things now that'll make it a suicide mission for him.
Because that's the thing too is what he says by his crew. He means all of us.
Yes.
Like he doesn't have like his own like secret crew hiding around. No, he's talking when he says his crew, he's talking about us, the Guardian. Like come hunt Drifter down. Drifter's going to call in a favor from all of us and be like, okay, we'll all meet at Sunrise Ridge and we're going to fuck some shit up.
Yep. So Shin takes notice of us dealing with the Drifter and crafting malfeasance. So he absolutely knows that malfeasance exists and that we helped make it and what its purpose is in the Drifter's mind.
Which means that he's got to know that the Drifter knows that he's who he is.
Yeah.
God, this is the most spy versus spy shit ever. Like this is.
I mean, that's Drifter's thing though. Is like always keep them guessing. No one ever really knows what they think they know. But the jig is up now. Drifter knows and Shin knows. And so Shin starts sending letters to us, the player guardian.
No shit.
And we see these in a lore book titled Letters from a Renegade.
Aww.
And the first one goes like this. We must all walk our own path, find our own way. Every step forward unique to the lives we've led, the choices we've made. Yet we're connected, all of us, by choice, by consequence, by random luck, and those steps taken and decisions made. Our individual lives shaped by the person we were, the person we are, and the person we claim to be, and the person we hope to be. The stages of our existence. Or so we tell ourselves, lost as we are in our own stories. In truth, there is no I, no singular existence. Never has been, never will be. You, me, your fire team, your friends, your allies and enemies, all lives move with, collide with, other lives, for better or worse, to form the whole of a lifetime. It took me a long time to understand this. None of us are alone. I call it the first understanding. It's a bit of an inside joke, but I think you get it. In fact, I'm quite certain you do. That's why I'm writing you. That's why now, after a life removed from the bigger picture, I'm risking everything I am on a simple bet. That you are different. That you are better than me and than them, those who would tempt the dark. This is what I want, what I need you to understand. Your path is not your own. It is shared. It has impact. It carries consequence and creates wake, both obvious and unseen. And the path you're currently walking is concerning. For yourself, whether you see it or not. More importantly, for others. For those who may, those who will, be influenced by you. Collisions yet to come. New paths unimagined. Collateral impacts beyond the narrow view of your own life. Have you considered this? I ask not to sway you. You will find your own way, and I will hold off judgment until judgment is necessary. I ask because we are at our best when considering the fallout of our intentions, good or bad, grand or small. That's all I'm after, here and now. Your consideration of the deeds left behind and the deeds yet to come. Who do you claim to be? Who do you hope to be? And how do the ripples of those answers expand to touch the lives around you? Think on your life and your actions, and continue ever forward. I will help where I can, with knowledge gained from a life hunting the very dangers you tempt. And though we'll never meet, our paths crossing at distances as we seek to confront all that drives us, from this moment on, our lives will never be the same. My name is Shin Malphur, and I believe you, Guardian, are the hope that I was once told was a lie. And that's the end of the first one.
Oh. See, now I always thought of the Renegade as being Dredge and Yor, but I guess Shin's kind of a renegade too.
Yeah, Shin is traditionally the one referred to as the Renegade.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
this is a little bit of a warning and a little
Yeah.
bit of
Oh.
a like hope, hoping that we are better than what it looks like we're going to become.
In other words, don't come hunt me down because you'll lose.
Yeah, like, he recognizes us, recognizes all we've done, as the player guardian. And
We've killed
is
gods.
yeah, and is saying like you have a lot of influence whether you know it or not. Every single thing you do impacts everybody around you.
Yeah.
So decide, what path do you want to go down? Because
Guardians make their own fate.
yeah, cuz he's like, you could be this shining beacon that I was told could never exist, or you know,
You'd be
he
exactly what
right.
I figured you'd be, is pure evil.
Right. He says, I will hold off judgment until judgment is necessary. Like, he's
Yeah.
not adverse to gunning us down if he feels it's needed. So, that's his first letter to us. His second letter is titled For Fear of the Conquering Hero. And this one goes like this. I knew a man once. Some claim he was a monster. And I agreed for a very long time. Any more, I refuse to honor him with the power such labels imply. Monster, beast, other, terrors meant to frighten, meant to weaken, meant to control. There are no monsters, only the broken and the misunderstood. Still terrifying, sure, but knowable, conquerable, unworthy of the power they possess. This man, clad in black and misshapen by the weight of his sins, professed to wield hope as a weapon, to offer it as a crutch, a beacon he saw as false promise. Nothing dies like hope, he'd say. And he was right. The loss of hope stings like no other. But he knew something else, a truth he would not share, a truth muddied by his waters and deeds and the grim menace of his presence. That truth is that hope is eternal. It may fade, it may get lost in the pain and the suffering, but it's always there, somewhere, hidden, maybe, in plain sight or far from view. And this man who craved fear, who inflicted its curse on all he encountered, once conquered the life or death game that would become your training ground. Seeing you and other guardians enforce your will over your fellow champions of the light is reminiscent of the ease with which he was said to dispatch his rivals. But you are not his equal. None are. Not Lord Shax, not commanders of Allah, none of his shadows or the new breed who wear his title like a badge of honor. Dredgen means abyss. It is an ancient tongue. Not human, not hive, just forgotten arcana. Another layer of uncertainty and fear draped around a bastard to provide comfort against his sins. It means nothing. It is a void, as is his path. And while you enjoy your victories and embrace the competitive fires of the crucible, I would ask you to reflect once more upon yourself. Do you find joy in the challenge or in the pain you inflict upon your enemies? Do you revel in the thrill of facing your equal in combat, in testing the limits of your might? Or do you take pleasure in the breaking of their spirit? Reflect on the answers you find. Seek yourself within the truth of your deeds. Are you a hero or are you a conqueror? One can harness the other, but the opposite is not true. For what it's worth, I see both in you. And that's the end of that letter.
Man, that's deep.
Shin's getting a little philosophical
Shit.
on us, yeah.
Yeah, he is. Damn. Now he's got me questioning everything ever. Like, shit, I don't know. There's been times where I've been super happy to teabag somebody. Other times I've just been like, I'll take the win if I can take the win. Like, man, are we the baddies?
And that's
Jesus.
kind of the point of this whole entry, I think, is him being
Yeah.
like, you know, are
Know thyself.
are you there because you like causing pain, or are you there because you're trying to grow and better yourself?
Better yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Know thyself. That's and was it the first understand? Come on. You little shit. I'm watching you. The first understanding. Inside joke, my butt.
So, and needless to say, this is obviously these letters are all after the events of Forsaken.
Yep.
So he's going to start referencing some things very specific to what we did in the Forsaken campaign, in particular, the hunting of Aldrin, who, just to not make it confusing for this entry, one of Aldrin's titles was the Crow Master or the Crow. So when he refers to the Crow here, he doesn't mean Crow as we know him in game right now. He means
Right.
when he was still Aldrin, and that was just the title that he had.
Well, because he had he was a chart. He had all of his his scouts.
Yeah,
the crows.
The crows. Yeah.
Which again is still to me. I don't know. I don't know if that's just like a confusing thing in Destiny, or it just so happens that he because did he choose the name Crow?
No, Spider
did
gave
Glint?
it to him.
Spider gave it to him. So Spider was literally like fucking with him then.
Yes, that's exactly what
name.
was happening.
Okay. All right, Spider. You merchandising little shit. Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Just to clear that up before we get into it. But yeah, so this one is the third letter that he sent to us, titled "A Fire Inside," and it goes like this: How'd it feel hunting the crow, tracking him through the tangled wilds of the reef, hunting the barons one by one, stalking the cutthroats that killed your friend? Was it righteous or pure anger, vengeance driven by a lust for justice? I know the feeling. I know the sensation. Loss, followed by a hole so big you can't fill it with anything but retribution. I've felt that hole twice. First, when everything I'd known was turned to ash. I was just a child then. No way of knowing when or if the pain would end. Then a man, Jaren, my third father, helped redirect that pain, give me purpose, taught me to hunt, taught me to survive, taught me about vengeance. And it felt good, like a fire inside. Or so I thought. In truth, the good was just a dulling of the pain, a covering of the burden of my loss through the redirection of my focus. Why be sad? Why be broken when you can be angry? And so I was for a long, long time. After Jaren died, killed by the would-be monster and his weapon of sorrow, I hated him for a good while. I was alone again, lost. I had no direction. I felt abandoned. Just me and that hole left by losing everything I knew. The man who destroyed my life twice over, first the burning of Palamon, my home, and then the murder of my mentor and father figure, still walked the wilds. But I was just a young man, angry and frightened. Vengeance, the fire inside me, was a weight, not a comfort, because I lacked the confidence needed to see it through. I spent a long time mad at the murderer who'd played in shadows, at Jaren for leaving me, at the world, at myself for being lost, and at Jaren's ghost for not believing in me. My anger defined me, as did yours, for a short while. What I wonder is, have you ever considered? Cade's death was not the origin of your recent aggression, but simply a catalyst for its release. That it's possible this whole second life of yours has been driven by vengeance for the life you lost before your return as a guardian, for the world's lost to the great collapse. Are you truly fighting to protect and reclaim, or have you been fighting this whole time to avenge? What are you fighting for now? Does your anger define you? If yes, if no, what are the consequences of either? Honestly, truly, ask yourself, what are you fighting for? And can you feel a fire, even a spark, welling up inside of you? And that's the end of that letter.
Well, shit, I don't know anymore now. This shit. Damn it, Myth.
Shin's had a lot of time to ruminate
yes.
on, kind of like
the philosophical
yeah
thinkings of the universe of good and evil and what makes a man. Dude, I don't know what to think now.
I mean, it's one of those things. Everyone knows Shin the gunslinger. No one knows Shin the philosopher.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know me, like I can't shoot Smallin anymore. I can't shoot Screebs and Vex and Goblins and half the damn universe I can't shoot because I'm like, oh, they're just trying to make their way in the world. Like, shit, man, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's kind of what Shin is getting at here. Like, as a guardian, do you know why you fight? Like, what is it that
not anymore?
Right, and that's his point. I think is to make you question and make you think about. This is all in the game world. The player guardian, make them think about like what do they want out of this fight? What is their motivation?
I mean, rage and anger can be.
Yeah, I mean, it's
is that one of the Shaq's lines? Rage is an excellent motivator.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So he's and again, I don't think he's presenting a like this is the right way to think about it and this is the wrong way to think about it. He's just saying like, have you ever stopped and thought about this? And if you haven't, maybe you should.
Maybe take a second and think.
Yeah. And again, this is directed less at the player behind the screen, although if you can take something away from it, by all means. I think there are lessons to be. It
means
I
can't play goddamn Crucible anymore because I can't play Crucible angry anymore. Is what it means.
But he's directing it more at this is written more to be directed at the character of the Guardian in the Destiny world and try and make
The
them think about like
the,
why they do these things.
the more lore we get through Myth, the less and less of the game I'm allowed to play. This is bullshit, man.
You can play it just fine. You just are cognizant now of the consequences.
I am now. It's conscious shattering. Consciousness? Conscience. The Jiminy Cricket shattering.
There you
Shooting
go.
little crickets everywhere.
There you go.
I can say Jiminy Cricket. Consciousness is a hard word. Conscient. Fuck, it's not even the right. Damn it, Myth.
We're going to move on.
Yes, please do.
So the next letter that Shin sends us, letter number 4, is titled Something New. And it goes like this. Now, I've hunted guardians. You know this. I've hunted guardians on the path you now tread. Not the same path exactly, their own, but similar of a kind. Some have seen the error of their ways sooner than others. I'm not a murderer, but I have, when necessity dictated a drawing of arms. I prefer the alternative. I prefer less finite measures. But I've found most who choose this life, a life in search of answers mired in shadow, rarely grasp the extent of their actions. Few reflect. Few still actually understand. And I've seen the damage done by those who would control the uncontrollable. And I won't allow it to repeat. To the best of my ability, I will stand against the corruption and challenge all who let the whispers in. Yet here we are. You, a guardian worthy of legend, dancing ever closer to the edge of an abyss. And I, one who stands against those who attempt such a fate. Yet I, for the first time, haven't moved to stop the music. This is something new. That you and I could share these words is something new. There is something in you, something about you. Not just bravery, I've seen that come and go. Not just might, I've seen the greatest fools I've ever known have also be the greatest warriors. You're curious, but your curiosity is not a weapon. It is a tool. And somewhere in there, in the merging of courage and might and curiosity, I see something worthy of a risk. So go forth, fight for the light, and challenge the dark, and I will be watching with a hopeful heart. But know, should you overreach, should the consequences of the steps you take catch innocence in your wake, should your path veer blindly toward the perversion of your will and the whispers become your truth, I will be there to end it, and you. But you already knew I was going to say that. Understand, this is not a threat. It's just the way of things. And that's the end of that letter.
I'm starting to understand more and more why the title The Renegade is being associated with Shin. He's very much this philosophical questions that he's bringing up throughout all these last couple of readings. He very much is kind of becoming this one man. I don't want to say one man army, but it's like this judge, jury, and executioner all in one. But like, I don't know. He's not fully. It's not all vengeance driven. It's not all justice driven. He just. It's almost like he wants to see people walk a path, but without. I don't know how to describe this. He wants to see people walk that path, but a very specific path. but
He,
still have hope throughout the whole thing. I don't know
yeah.
how to describe this. Like,
So I think once upon a time he was very vengeance and fury and
oh, absolutely. I
like
mean, pissed,
yeah.
pissed about his town, pissed about his friend, pissed about his father, his third father. Like, he even says as much. I walked around angry,
Yep.
and so vengeance and vengeance was his motivator, wrath and vengeance, and end it all. Like, find this man and kill him. But then like he never really talks about like the aftermath. Is like, okay, I got my goal. Now what? Is
Right.
the world a better place? Am I happier? Am I still a good person? Did I do something right? Did I snuff out evil? Like,
And that's probably where a lot of the questions he's posing to us started for himself.
yeah,
And yeah, I think his motivator, his goal now is not of righteous fury. It's, you know, he's okay with people going down the path of being curious about dark powers, but it's the people that don't understand the consequences of their actions, especially when those consequences involve innocent lives outside of their own. That is
absolutely.
his hard stop. That is
Yeah,
his, like, you have fallen to
you've
the
crossed the
dark.
line.
Yep, that is the line you've crossed, and now I am the gatekeeper to make sure you go no further.
When the innocent lives are just collateral damage to you,
Yep.
and not like, oh God, I fucked up, or what have I done type thing. That's where he's drawn his line and said, okay, if you just see them as objects, as means to an end or tools or whatever, once you start using innocent lives as fodder, now you've crossed that line into evil. Now you are evil.
Yep.
Man, what would you call that? The morality police? I don't.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and he's definitely still taken a very direct stance. Like he's definitely like, I will end you if you
Yeah,
become this problem.
yeah. Full stop. Like there's no like, oh, I'm gonna give it's a slap. We'll give you a warning shot, slap on the wrist or something. No, you cross that line. That's it. I'm coming for you. You're dead.
Yeah. I
Which I still feel like is almost its own vengeance path.
in a
But
way, it's
I don't know.
definitely a bit of an absolutionist, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that. Yeah. I like that term.
So, so we have the fifth letter from Shin, titled "Echoes Followed by Silence," and this one goes like this: I've done my best to offer myself as a voice of reason as you've continued down this road. I have few facts to offer you, only experience, the truth of my own being. But here's another truth. I've told you very little that is new. Every word, every question, each time I have implored you to reflect, I was nudging you down a path you had already chosen. To consider your actions is at the core of you. I've seen it. I've heard of it in the words of your fellow guardians as they recount your feats, your courage, your selflessness. You may tread the razor's edge of damnation, but you are, at your very heart, a just and noble warrior. And if I played any hand in expanding your consideration of the people and the worlds around you, if I've helped you take better stock of all you are and all you are capable of becoming, so be it. But it was all of it, already inside of you somewhere. This isn't a pep talk. This isn't a signal boost for your hero's ego. I am saying this because I know things you do not know from experience. Right now, I imagine you are questioning your true nature. Who is this renegade to define me? My thoughts, my actions. Could be you've been warned about me. Could be maybe you're a little scared of me. After all, the man with the golden gun doesn't play well with others. I leave all that nonsense to you. But by way of a quick word in defense of my intentions. If they were anything but in your best interest, this conversation would have been with lead, not words, and it would have been your last. And while you have dark thoughts and are no saint, we are all far from pure. It's not the lack of sin that makes the best of us. It's that the best of us feel the weight of our deeds and do not succumb to the temptation. And I know something you don't know, a secret. The hows and whys don't matter. That's an understanding for another day. But know this: when you are at your lowest, when hope has faded and you are all alone in the world, inside your own head, when the odds are stacked and despair has taken hold, remember your fire. It's always there. Once sparked, once the anger, once fear has lit the fuse, the flame will remain, always. A beacon signaling to eternity that you are here and you will stand, no matter the obstacle. And in the end, if you so choose, it won't be whispers and shadows that save you. That corruption seeks only to abuse. No, it'll be your first loud words and your enemy's last. Don't question that moment. This is my only best advice. Take hold, speak clearly. The echoes followed by silence will tell the tale, and the last word will be ever yours. And that's the end of that letter.
Dude, these are making me like question my entire life, man. Like every decision I've made in my life now, like outside of the game, I'm like rethinking, like, was that the right? Am I good? Am I evil? Am I? Dude, these are super deep. Like I, that's all I have to say about it. These letters are insanely deep and are really making me question like everything, even outside the game.
And, art imitates life. Like,
This is true. This is true.
yeah, it's and like I said before, if the player behind the screen can get something out of these, then yeah, that's all the better. I do think there are some very valuable lessons to be learned and questions to ask of yourself of any, everybody, of who are they, who do they want to become, and are they on the path to do that.
Yeah. This is deep, man. This is
It is.
truly philosophical level discussions of the nature of self and the perception of self from looking in from the outside. Like that's to be able to look at self subjectively, or I guess even objectively. Like, fuck, man, this is getting deep, man. I can't even. My brain is like spinning on in its wheel. Like one little lonely squirrel up there, just I can't keep up with this shit.
Well, I will leave your squirrels to figure out their own existential crises there. But no, so yeah, I mean these there are not to harp too much on this point, but there are a lot of therapies that revolve around this idea of like knowing
Yeah.
who you are and who you want to be and what the path to that is. And I'm not gonna claim to be someone that can really offer any direction in that point, but if it is something that you feel you could get a lot out of, then I highly recommend looking further into some of those different therapeutic methods and whatnot, because you may get a lot out of it.
Or just listen to this episode on repeat a few days
well,
and just like take it in.
So, getting back to the game world, though, and
Okay, good.
and simpler concepts to wrap your head around.
Yes, please. Do
Um,
history. I can follow history. I can't
history we can
philosophical
follow.
shit. I can't do, man.
So, in the course of Shin sending us these letters, we get a message from the Drifter, and this is a quest chain, um, that is titled "A Darker Path," and the Drifter reaches out and says, like, "Hey, I need to meet with you." And I don't have the dialogues in front of me, but it more or less boils down to him saying, "I have found a dark hive artifact that I think is an unfinished new weapon of sorrow."
Oh shit.
And he tasks the Guardian with finding out more about it. So the Guardian, through a number of quest steps, you track the origins of this relic, this piece of a weapon, back to a hive weapon master on Titan, who has been trying to create new weapons of sorrow to then release into the Guardian population to make more Dredgen yours.
So let me follow this. This isn't like a hive. Like this isn't like a hive knight like banging out weapons.
No,
This
this
is a
is.
dude.
This
Oh,
is.
this is a
Yeah.
hive knight like banging out weapons. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
this is a
The
actual
hive have
hive.
has taken note of this idea of
Yep.
like kill the guardian. I mean, that's brilliant. Like let these
Yeah.
things that can kill me just kill each other. Like then I don't have to deal with them.
Yeah, so this hive has taken note that, like, okay, these weapons of sorrow create internal strife and, are bad for the
Yeah.
Guardians. So
Yeah.
if I figure out how the first one was made and I make some and just, put them out there into the world for Guardians to find,
Put them as
like,
engrams on fucking acolytes, and
yeah.
then when you pop them, they just drop this weapon. This guy's kind of a dick too.
But that's his
hey,
thought
hey,
process.
hey, Steve, you want to carry this engram into battle with you? Sure, man. What does it do? Don't worry about it. Just hang on to it. Let's see what happens later. 5 hours later, pop. Oh, sweet, an engram. What is it? What the fuck is this? I guess I'll take it. I don't know.
Yeah. So needless to say, this hive weapon master has learned the secrets of that created Thorn, or is on the cusp of learning how the original Thorn was made. And our Guardian has tracked this piece of a weapon that Drifter has come into possession of to this hive weapon master on Titan. And when we do the mission, and you first cross paths with this weapon master, you are unable to damage them. Like they're immune to any damage you do. Super, grenade, any weapon in your arsenal doesn't touch them.
Shit.
Until, and this was a really cool mission to go through, until you get to the point where you're in a shootout with this hive weapon master across multiple stages of the arena, and the last word is summoned into your hand. And that is the one weapon that deals damage to this hive weapon master.
Dude, I don't remember this mission.
No? Oh, it was a fun one. This is the mission to get the last word in game when it first came out.
Oh, okay. Yep, nope, I'm following.
And
that was the one where the final mission was like, he'd stand in front of you.
Yep.
And then like you'd have to pick the right one.
Yep. There'd be a couple copies, and you had to look for the flash of him drawing his weapon, and then you had to draw
Pop
and shoot last word first.
Yep. And then like there was one at the beginning of the cave, and then it was in the same area, the space at the end of the Broodmother strike.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I remember now. Because that one was hard as fuck. The final fucking
yes,
because it was all really three of them, and you had to do them. And like the last three of them, you had to do them like pop, pop, pop. Like it was really fast.
Yeah. So, but this mission is like, that's why you were there. That was the hive weapon master who's trying to produce more weapons of sorrow, and by nature of your quest to put an end to that corruption or the possibility of that corruption, the
It's like you're
last
following
word,
in
yeah,
the steps of
of
Shin,
Shin,
and therefore,
and the
yeah,
last word
okay.
comes to you, and helps you complete that mission.
Because it's because that's I think that's like the whole thing with the last word is it's not the fact that the man with the golden gun is the answer to the weapons of sorrow. It's like for somehow the last word itself has become the answer to weapons of sorrow.
Yep, yep. Uh, and so after that mission completes, we get the final letter, uh, and our final reading of this episode, from Shin, and it is titled "A Gift and a Touch of Gray," and it goes like this: The gun came to you. How does it feel in your grip? Few can light its fire, but any reborn of the light can call its name. That's a secret I'm bound to hold. Just know you've earned it, and you've earned it true. The cannon you hold is yours, but it is no replica. It is a gift from a friend. I've hunted agents of the darkness for longer than I care to recount, from childhood to now. Not constant, not always, but any more it is what defines me. My drive has long been clear. Seek the shadow, and your future is forfeit. Seek the dark, and I will end you. It's not personal, not any more, though it surely started that way and stayed as such until one day on a lonely ridge. But now you've heard the story, the ballad of Jaren Ward and his last word, of Dredgenyor and Palamon, of Thalor and Pananin, of our hunt and Jaren's death, of Dwindler's Ridge and my final showdown with the man who would be a monster. It's a long tale, and nothing I'm interested in revisiting. Not anymore. Them chapters are old. We're writing a new one, you and I. A final act for me, and an unexpected beginning for you. My life has always been about absolutes. There is light, and there is dark, and I made my purpose to defend against the whispered corruption of the shadows calling. I have seen no middle ground, though maybe I've always known it exists. I've also seen many heroes tempt that sinister fate and the dire consequences born of their ignorance, pride, and selfishness. I've put many of them down, more than anyone actually knows, more than I will ever confess. And seeing you, watching you, I don't feel I was wrong in my actions, but I now know I was wrong in my assumption, in my core belief. To me, there was only ever white and black, good and evil. And in you, I see blinding light. I see a hero among heroes. I see the hope you inspire shining through. But I also, for the first time, see maybe, just maybe, a little bit gray, and with it, an end to last rites and final words. And that is the end of that letter.
Shit, yeah. We are the touch of gray.
Yep.
We are the space between light and dark, and the one that can wield both, and yeah. Good, evil, nah, they're just tools, brother.
Yeah. So
Or no,
Shin.
I don't do a good Drifter's voice.
I don't either. But Shin has recognized that, like, the Golden Gun has chosen us as its next master, and that maybe it's not all black and white. Maybe we can be the one that shows everybody that you can use both and not fall to temptation.
Yeah.
And that is the end of our episode tonight.
All righty. Well, then let's do some shout outs then.
Absolutely. So we have 2 shout outs tonight. Say the first of which is coming from us, or coming to us from Twitter. Coming to us from Tony Slaz, I think is how that would be pronounced. But
You got me, man. I suck with names.
yeah. But so they say, "Hey guys, absolutely love your content. Started listening to you guys when I started playing Destiny in January of this year, and now I have a firm grasp of the lore and about 653 hours. I'm assuming in game."
I mean, you think you have a firm grasp of the lore, dude. I don't even have a firm grasp. I don't have a firm grasp of a lot of things, but the lore is definitely one of the least things I have a firm grasp about. I have little bits and chunks that I understand. I definitely think that Myth is the better understander here because he has less of the squirrel brain. But yeah, 653 hours. That's not anything to scoff at.
No.
Myth, how many hours do we have?
Oh God, I am not saying that on air.
I am. I'm over 4,000.
I'm probably pretty close to the same.
I think I am. You got the Google machines up? You know we have to Google it now.
Oh God.
Yep, he's going to do that. So I'm going to tell everyone of a website. There's a website called Time Wasted in Destiny. And you look it up. I think you just Google it, just Time Wasted in Destiny. And then one of the trackers is tracks how long you have been in game. Now, the thing with this tracker is it only tracks activities. It doesn't track how long you've spent like AFK in orbit or like load times between activities. It only tracks the total number of times spent actively in an activity. So a patrol, Crucible, Gambit, strikes, raids, the tower, anything like that you're Gambit, anything that you're actually in doing something. So Myth, how many hours do you have?
We're gonna start with me, are we?
Okay, fine. You can start with me. How many hours do I have?
So you are sitting for Destiny 2 at a cool 4,158 hours.
Holy shit. And you are that's what, top 0.2%?
Top 3% actually.
Oh my God, I've fallen.
Yeah.
To be fair, there's been a lot of games come out this year that I've really been catching up on a lot of games. It's a lot of games on Switch that I haven't gotten to get to now, and yeah, so I'm to be fair, the number has gone down this year.
I am in the top 2%.
Oh, you got me beat.
I am sitting at 4,422 hours.
Jesus.
Now,
over 8,000 hours between the two of us?
Yeah. Now, I will preface, these trackers are for the entirety of Destiny 2 since launch. So
this is true.
That's 8 years of game at this point.
Yep.
Well, I guess
8 years.
Has no, it really that's been 8 that's years? The entire Destiny franchise. Excuse me. Destiny 2 is 5 of those years, 5? I believe.
So we got base game, Forsaken, Beyond Light, Shadowkeep, Witch Queen. We're in year 6, so 5.5 years with Lightfall.
Yeah, Destiny 2 launched on September of 2017. So
September 6th, specifically September 6th, because the launch poster that I stole from GameStop when I worked there says September 8th. And we got that marketing before they changed the date by 2 days, and so they sent us all new marketing with and that was all that was changed. The exact same poster and everything. It just said September 6th instead of September 8th. So I took the September 8th one home and framed it.
Yeah. So about 6 years for Destiny 2. So clearly we've played a lot, but
slightly.
But it was over an extended period of time, so that's my excuse.
That's your excuse. That's your justification of oh, trust me, when I loaded it up on the PS5, the PS5 will tell you how many hours you've had a game running.
Yeah.
And so just having the game running on PS5, my timer is sitting at 2K. So I'm okay, so 4,000. That's 4,000 inactivities actively doing something, plus another probably 2,000 sitting idle in orbit or AFK. Like I got up to go eat dinner or something, or like I'm on a website trying to Google something about my build or about Destiny or about a lore or something. So yeah, it's a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time.
But regardless, I am, thank you, and I'm glad that we were able to give you a feeling of like understanding about what's going on, because I know, especially if you just started playing in January of this year,
it's a confusing.
yeah,
Time.
there's a lot that is not
There's a lot
explained.
There's a
So
lot missing right now.
hopefully we could help you with that a little bit, and like Zora was saying, I definitely know stuff. Generally speaking, I know a lot of the major bits of the lore, but it usually isn't until we really pick something to dive into that I really get all the nuance and like put all the pieces together in a coherent way for myself to get a real firm understanding of that particular thing. So
Yeah, because that's a big thing too. Is like a lot of lore is, especially any given story. I mean, hell, throughout this series, we've gone through like 6 different books and armor and guns and ghost shells and ships and
yeah.
sparrow. There's so much lore entries in the game that it's hard to like sift through it all and go, oh, okay, this connects here. Oh, but this other piece happened before all that. So let me see if I can create a timeline. And that's why I absolutely adore Myth and his ability to create a timeline out of this stuff. Because my squirrel brain would be like, I got to read all of it. I don't know where any of this goes.
Yeah, I mean, in this series right now, this Shin and Malphur series, from episode 1 to now, encompassed lore readings from 40 different sources so far.
Holy shit!
And
So yeah,
we've got more episodes yet to go. So
yep. So if you've got a firm understanding so far, then you're doing better than I am.
but no. So thank you again. Yeah, and our second shout out of the evening and our final one comes to us from Apple Podcast review from Audiophile Xavier, who gave us a very kind 5-star review. Thank you very much for that. And just said, best podcast hands down. You guys have the best chemistry. So thank you.
so story behind that, and I think this is why. The very first, and I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. The very first memory I have of Myth is at the bottom of, or at the start of the hopscotch jumping puzzle for Eater of Worlds. I think it's Eater of Worlds.
Yeah.
Where there's all the water there, and if you fall in the water, you die. But like, no, you can't have more than one person on the platform. So like, there's a countdown. Everyone has to 3, 2, 1 jump, and everyone moves forward a platform. So you're constantly moving forward. He is in there, and he has a very special gun on his back that I think is the greatest gun in the history of guns, because somebody went and took the lore card on it and made an anime theme song of it, and then he showed me that. And I fell in love with it. It won movie of the week for and this is a long time ago. He had Two-Tailed Fox on his back, and I would run that unironically and be like, "This is the greatest rocket launcher in the game." And now it kind of is, because it's got the third rocket and it interacts with a bunch of it does Scorch, I think it does Jolt, it does Suppression. So yeah, so I wish it did Volatile instead of Suppression, because that would make that gun freaking nuts. So yeah, so Myth became my my Two-Tailed Fox buddy.
Yep.
All the way back then, and that's my first memory I have of Myth. So I think that's where our chemistry comes. So yeah, and if you get a chance, go look up the Kitsune theme song for Two-Tailed Fox, because it's absolutely awesome. It's
pretty
adorable, great. And now I like. If I get a kill with it in Crucible and I'm on comms, I'll just scream out Kitsune, and then everyone's like, "You're so dumb," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I don't care."
That is an accurate representation of a normal Crucible night. Yes,
that is.
So those are the shout outs for this evening. But if you liked what you heard, we would really appreciate it if you leave a review on your platform of choice. Just however many stars you think we deserve. If you really feel strongly and your platform allows it, you want to leave a text review like on Apple or Audible. Those are great. We look for those and read through them. Or if you want to reach out to us at our Twitter or so I'm not going to call it x.com. That's just stupid.
Do you know it's banned in India now because it's called X?
Oh my God. Well,
I think it's either India or Indonesia. I don't remember which, but
I'm not surprised
because it's called X and of the anti-pornography laws that they have in this country, it is literally banned.
Oh man. Well,
I don't know what to think of this stuff anymore. Like, what is happening?
we're just along for the ride at this point.
I don't like this world myth. Can I go to my fantasy world and live there?
I think a lot of people would rather do that at this point. But regardless, we're on the platform formerly known as Twitter.
I like that.
At Myths and Stories, Z instead of an S. And you may see yourself on a future shout out.
Yeah. Well, I guess I got to give my thank you. Thank you, Steve, the Acolyte, for following orders, because that's an important thing in an army of darkness. Can't have like people just being like, "Hey, I'm not going to take this engram. I'll just shoot you." It's an army of darkness. I don't care if you die. But yeah, thanks, Steve, for bringing this weapon crafter to our attention by way of holding on to these engrams and getting shot. We appreciate it because that's what made us feel morally good.
There you go.
Well, anything else, Myth?
That's it.
All righty. Well, then from all of us Lord Daddies to all of you Guardians out there, we'll see you next time.